Hello guys and welcome back to Timeless RC. Today we're going to be building the Tamiya Toyota Land Cruiser on the CR01 chassis. I will lay all the bits on the bench ready and then we can begin. Right guys, we can carry on and kick off with the build. We're going to be starting on page 4, which is starting to assemble the arms and the chassis rails. So I've laid some bits out ready, so obviously it doesn't take me so long on the video, so it sort of doesn't bore you trying to find things. So I've got all the bits ready for the first section, so we'll make a start on that. Okay, first off we've got to take, I'm assuming this is something to do with the suspension with the springs, the top mount on 4 corners, so we've got to do 2 of each, so we'll crack off doing those. First of all, you need to take the metal section with a bearing, place the bearing in the holder like so. Is it sitting any particular way? It's got to go. This we have to be careful of because this has a certain angle that it must sit at. So we go by that, it's got to be at that angle and straight across. So that should be correct. Right, now we can fit the lovely E-clips, one of my favourite things on Tamiya kits. I hate doing them because they always ping off somewhere else. I expect you guys have the same problem as well. First time. You can actually buy E-clip fittings, so it might be worth investing in one of those if you're going to be doing lots of building. Not sure what the price of them is, but it's getting hold of them as well. So that's one. So now we need to do the same again. So that's that one. So I need to take this back apart because clever Simon put it on the wrong way around, didn't he? Right, so we'll take it back out, put it back in, put it back together, and we'll just double check and make sure it's round the right way this time before we put it on. Right, so we'll tighten that up. Okay, use the that one was actually correct. We'll get there in a minute, bear with me. It's always different when you're doing it in front of camera than it is when you're doing it off camera. It's, I think it's the pressure. Right, so I'll double check them other ones before I take them apart again to make sure. Okay. Make sure we tighten that up. Right, so that way around, correct. That one is incorrect, and so is that one. So we've got to redo these 2, making sure we don't pick up the ones we've just done, of course. So that one through it out. Get on there. Alright. That one's done. And once we get this on, we can start cracking on with getting the chassis sections together, which will be good because it's quite a big chassis, this one, so I'm looking forward to seeing exactly how flexible the actual suspension is. It looks like it's very, very flexible, so it will give you the opportunity to go up all types of terrain, especially with the soft tyres it comes with, because that it all adds to the grip as well. I've just noticed earlier as well that tyres all come with pre-installed foam, which is good. which makes it nice and bouncy. Right, so that's that way around. Okay, right, so they're correct. Okay, so we need to make the same again. So bearings into both sides, the arm onto there. Whoop. That goes that way around because it goes inwards. Right, so that goes through there. That is it. What have we done? What's going different? Oh, I see. Right, that's it. Okay. And then I need to cut another part off of here, which is the D parts. That C part, sorry. So we'll snip that one off. Get it around the way, it's where it's easier to cut out without filing it off. Right, so we've got that, and we've got our E-clip ready. Come here, E-clip. So that's that one. This is the same again, so we're doing it the same direction. Oh, before we do, we've got to put that little ball on there with the connector, ball and connector. So make sure we get this around the right way. That goes in that one there. That goes on like so. Right. Now we're cooking. So make sure we put this on exactly the same as the last one so that the alignment's correct. And that way around. It's got to go like so. Then we pick our E-clip and pliers. One of these is going to ping off, I can see it coming. Right, we're lucky again. So we've got two of the same thing made up. That's for one side, or both of the front or back, whichever it is. Do the same again on the rear. So what I'll do is I'll do that quickly and then I'll come back. Okay, we're all ready to crack on. I've made those four up, so they're all ready to go. Next bit we have to do is to start assembling those onto the side rails, along with the side parts that hold the suspension. So we need to take one of these parts, put it around the right way, and it needs to be downwards, isn't it? So it's like that. And then we need to take one of the bolts, which I've got ready to save time. So we need to go one bolt in there. Come on, be nice. And there. And a nut into the plastic. The plastic's inset for the bolt, which is quite useful because it saves you having to use a spanner. So you've got one hand you can use for this job. Right, so there's one. Next one into there. Like so. Just change the screwdriver to get the right one. Now I've got the specific Tamiya screwdrivers. A lot of the other channels that you watch are probably noted the same sort of thing. A normal screwdriver, a Phillips screwdriver, isn't the same size as the Tamiya ones. The Tamiya ones are slightly bigger, I think they are. Slightly smaller, sorry. And it makes it easier to fit into the actual screw head. You can strip the heads with normal Phillips screwdrivers, so it's worth investing. Even if it's a cheap set, it's worth investing in some Tamiya JIS screwdrivers. Make your life a lot easier down the line, and it just saves you destroying the screws and having to hunt around for replacements. So it's worth considering. Right, so that's one side. I'll put this one on. It's got to go on that way around too. Same again. Put the 4 bolts in. Into. There you go, Mr. Bolt. It's the downside of having bigger hands as well. For fiddly things, it can be a pain. Right, into there with that nut. And then we can get the last 2 in a lot easier because it's now aligned and it makes it so much easier to do. Just picking the nuts up in the first place. They're lively little things and very easy to drop, unfortunately. Right, that is the 2 lower parts of the side rails added on. Now we need to add on the parts that we've made previously just now. So that's the 2 side rails. So we take 1 side rail and we install one of these, which is the suspension mount, and it doesn't go on the last one, it goes on 2, 3, the 4th hole in. So it's worth looking at that and paying attention to that, because you could end up putting it in the wrong place otherwise, and that would mean you've got to then take it apart again. These ones, it uses nylock nuts. Do the nuts sit? Yeah, unfortunately the nuts sit into the chassis rail. Again, this is fiddly because I've got big fingers. There's not a great deal of space to be able to do this, and as it is, that nut didn't go on. I know an easier way to do this is put it in the socket first and then onto there, so it should get some grip. That's better. Right, so hopefully now we can, these are nylock nuts, so it doesn't need a thread lock on these because they automatically do the job. That's one. Just try and make sure that it's actually which I don't think it is. Saying that, I think I've actually put that on the wrong side, the wrong way around. Easily done. Easily rectified there. Right, let's undo the screw again and let's take another look. So the rails on that way round. That then installs so that's this side. So that's that side. Aha. Right. So here we go. Yeah, that's it. Okay. Right. So do a screw back in again, back into the 4th hole, and try and find the nut that just put down. Is it? No, let's get another one for now. I'm sure we'll find it. Okay. Come on, behave. Okay. Right, so best thing to do will be to get the bolts in, and then it gives you, you're able to hold the chassis in properly with your other hand and not have to worry about trying to align things and hold things at the same time. busted up. Let's put that back in there. And onto that. You little monkey. He's not playing game at the moment, guys. So that's that one. And then finally, the last bolt. The front has 3 for some reason. The rear has 2. I'm assuming at some point there'll be something else that goes onto the chassis rail with that fixing, so that it will get the 3 eventually. But at this stage, it's just telling you to put the two on the rear or the front, whichever way around it is. Right, okay. So let's get these done up. Okay, last one of this side. Right, resolve the little issue. So I've got both side rails together with the fixings as they should be. I've also gone one step a little bit further and put these middle parts of the chassis together. This is all the bits where the receiver and that will sit, I'm assuming, and the battery tray. So we're now in a position to put these onto the rails, and that is the start of the chassis. We've also got to put in some of these bars, which luckily when I put these together they go in there either side of the chassis. I'm assuming it's some sort of tension for the suspension, so got to make sure we put those in at the same time. So we'll do one side of the rail first, and then we can finish off with the other side. Just got to figure out where it goes. So I'm assuming it goes like so. Got to be careful because on this part you have to put nuts in here. There's little cutouts for them, and you put the nuts in so that you can turn the screw without having to hold them, which is quite good. But it's a little bit fiddly to get it all lined up at first. Once you get it lined up, it'd be a lot easier. So I'm just assuming I'm doing this the right way round before we go any further. Battery tray is this end. Yes, that's right. Okay, so we can get this one fixed in. Quite long bolts these are, but they've got to go through to the nuts. So, and you want it nice and tight, so you can understand why. Right, so that's one. Then we've got one of them nuts just come out somewhere. Where did you come out from? That one. Probably would have made more sense to do one side of these nuts first, in hindsight, and then another afterwards. I'll sort that out in a minute. It makes life a little awkward, to say the least. So, let's get that one in. That's it. Takes a little lining up. Once you're there, you're there. So that's that one. This one will be the longer bolt. This is where I said earlier that there was a bolt missed out. So I was correct in my thinking, there was one to go in there. Is that the one where the nut's falling out of? It would be, wouldn't it? No, there's no nut in there. Okay. Where did the nut go? There's the nut. Right, okay. Get that back in. Once we're in, it'll be easier because the bolts can't fall out then, so which is good because they're held in underneath the chassis rail. So it's quite good how they work. That one's already in there. That's better. I got one more. That's done, that's done. So it's that size done. I think I put the wrong bolt in that size. That should be for the other end. Sillily just picking any bolts up because I thought they were all the same size, but they're not, are they? Okay. Right, so you're there. It's better because the bolt's not sticking right out now like it was just a second ago. So that's one side done. Now we've got to put these bars in and also at the same time put the other side on, aligning them up how they should be. Right guys, I've looked at the sides again, a couple of little things that I'd done incorrectly, so I've adjusted those and I've put the two sides together with the central bit in the chassis, as you can see there. It's a very strong chassis, to be honest. It's a very nice looking chassis too, so far. Like it. Next job is to do the drive shafts for the axles, so that should be fun. So what I'll do is I will get the bits all ready, because we're on page 5 now. I'll get the bits ready and then I will be back shortly and then we can progress on building, okay? Right, the next item in the book is to start building the drive shafts. I've actually put the E-clips on each end of the drive shaft because they can be a pain, but it's just a case of putting it on and popping it on with some pliers. There's each of the drive shafts with the bearings on and the short drives. We're going to start putting the differential together now, so that's the next task. So I've got all the bits laid out ready for each one. Obviously there's 2 because this four-wheel drive, so we can get cracking on the first one. Well, first off, we need to put some ceramic grease on the washer, which we put in there. Smother that all over it. Then pop that in there. So it's got some grease on the end of it. Next, we need to put the first of the cogs. Put some grease on the back of that. And we'll put some grease on the front of it as well. Always better to have more grease than not enough, because you can always, it'll always use it, but if it's too dry, you run the risk of damaging the differential. So, and that can be quite a costly thing. So it's worth doing properly when you do it the first time. Right, next we have to put on the 3 parts for the differential. Bit more ceramic grease on each of these. Whoop. Makes it very slippery, as you can see. Right, then we need to put small cogs on for each one. Don't need to grease these because you've already got grease on the previous cog, which I've done. So that will wear off onto these ones. Well, that can sit like that, then that just pops in to the little grooves that's cut into the differential, as you can see. You then need to get a bit more grease to go on the top. Just so that it makes it all nice and greasy. Your next part of the differential, another washer, shim washer. Wipe it around a bit so you get the grease on it. Right, then just grab a bit of tissue. I don't want my hands all greasy, slipping everywhere. Then we need to put on the top housing, which is just 3 small screws. It's very small screws these are, so best to get it with your one. And the last one. So that should all be nice and smooth once it's installed into the axles. We won't know until obviously we've put them in, but that's one done. I'll do the next one and then I'll come back. Next step is to start putting the axles together, which I've done. I've already put the drive bit into this one, which has got 3 very, very thin shim washers and then an E-clip, so it's rather fiddly. So I've done that sort of before we come to do the next part. So next part we need to do is we need to install the main section of the differential. Make sure it's all greased up before we put it in there. Right, I found the right screws and I put those in, so that is now complete. It's very, very smooth. Quite very, very, you know, it's as smooth as you're going to get it. That's quite a nice drive actually. So that's done. I'll do the other one off camera. So we've both got them both ready for next time, and then next time in part 2 of the build we will finish off the drive axles and we'll get them installed onto the chassis. So till then, happy RCing, see you soon.